Hey random stranger, I hope you've been doing well. So we've only got 2 more sessions of Bloom Into You left, including today, and then that'll be it. I have really enjoyed watching it with you guys. I think it's a series that is just so real and so relatable, especially if you are LGBTQ plus yourself, or really if you're a human and you just humaning along with your relationships. So let's start with a recap and then onwards to the new eps. I said it last time, but I am so glad that we got to spend more time with Sayaka because I always felt like there was so much more to her than just being the typical side girl who's jealous of the main character. And she was. The show definitely delivered on her backstory in a way that made her, again, very relatable. Maybe even slightly too relatable for those of us who had to grow up as baby gays in a confusing, not really LGBTQ plus friendly environment. We learned that Sayaka's first real romantic experience was this relationship with her senpai that ended horribly because the girl dismissed their connection as just an experiment, you know, this phase that she eventually grew out of, completely oblivious to the emotional wreck that Sayaka was in. This experience is just way too common amongst LGBTQ plus youth in a super heteronormative environments. So on top of the chronic stress of having to figure out your sexuality while hiding it, when your first relationship gets dismissed out of hand as just experimenting, it really damages the validity of your feelings. And we saw how Sayaka's grades kind of tanked and then how she sank into a depression afterwards, which reflects what research shows does happen to LGBTQ plus teens who have to navigate questions of identity without any proper support systems. So when Sayaka was like, man, I really wish it were just a phase, I really felt that. Like when I look back on my own life as a young gay person growing up in a very conservative Christian environment, as well as some of the lives of my other gay friends, like it would have made life so much easier if we all were just going through a phase. But having said that, you know, the process of figuring out who you are and coming out the other end better for it and being able to support other people through their struggles too, that can also be rewarding in its own right. What made that senpai's apology at the train station so inadequate and so infuriating was just how condescending it was that she assumed that being gay is a problem that needs a cause rather than it just being who you are. Not to mention how narcissistic she was. It reminded me of people who sympathize with gay people because they assume we're damaged people because of some trauma in our lives. So I was really impressed that Sayaka chose not to punch her in the face right then and there, but she got her revenge in kind of a classier way by letting her senpai assume that she is completely at peace with her own sexuality, no thanks to her, and that she had found someone more amazing than she'll ever be. So sometimes the best comeback is to unapologetically just live out your best life in front of your enemies. Not that Touko is the best for Sayaka either, but we can talk about that separately. The parallel I found so interesting that I briefly mentioned last time is how both Sayaka and Touko desperately want a certain person's emotional state to stay frozen in place. And I think that's pretty unhealthy for everyone involved. So Sayaka needs Touko to stay emotionally unavailable because that is what guarantees her special place next to Touko as Touko's best friend. If Touko can't belong to her, at least she won't belong to anyone else, is the thinking. Although, with the number of times that Sayaka has told herself that Touko will never belong to anyone, it did seem like she was coping real hard with how Yuu is challenging that status quo. Clearly, it is agony for Sayaka to watch Yuu achieve what she thought was impossible, that is to get Touko to let down her guard. And not just that, to be someone who doesn't really even seem to want it as much as she does. So I really feel for Sayaka, I do. Like there's something achingly human about that wish to preserve your special spot in someone's life by hoping that they never change. It was also kind of telling how Sayaka probed Touko about whether she likes girls. It felt like she was testing out just how unreachable Touko is. Someone who is unemotionally available and straight would be just totally out of reach, but someone who's at least open to being with another girl, that kind of cracks the door open a little bit, even if Sayaka never really plans to walk through it. Meanwhile, Touko pursues Yuu romantically while demanding that Yuu never actually falls for her. She wants the experience of love without the vulnerability part, because as we already talked about, if Yuu ever loves her back, Touko would need to reciprocate as her true authentic self, and that terrifies her more than anything. So there you have it, the both of them wanting someone that they really care about to just stay the same. And the problem is that both Sayaka and Touko's desires are fundamentally, well, they're selfish and kind of require the other person to be stuck in this sort of emotional stuntedness. Sayaka's wish for Touko to never evolve beyond her current emotional state is essentially a hope for Touko to never heal or grow from her trauma, because it might threaten her position when Touko actually does start being open to relationships with other people. To say nothing of the cost to Sayaka for maintaining that self-imposed stasis. And then in a similar way, Touko's need for Yuu to stay the same denies Yuu the freedom to continue exploring her own capacity for love and for growth. There's also the strange thing where Touko believes that Sayaka only likes the perfect version of herself. And it certainly looks that way, like when Sayaka said that she admires Touko's determination and her leadership and how she's always one step ahead of her. But again, as we talked about last time, like what if those things aren't just part of Touko's constructed persona? Like what if Touko is so committed to self-hatred that she can't recognize any genuinely good parts of herself? People do grow into better, more confident versions of themselves, and Touko may have started out mimicking Mio's traits, but her work ethic and her determination and all of that stuff might also just be true parts of her own personality that she refuses to acknowledge because she is incapable of accepting anything positive about herself. I will say it again, and I will probably say it many times before this is over, but Touko really needs therapy. In contrast to what Touko believes, it is clear that Sayaka does see through Touko's facade even more than Yuu does, but she's just too protective of Touko to really call it out directly. So Touko is partly right about how Sayaka won't ever push her and overstep her boundaries, but I think it's more because Sayaka is aware of all that fear and all the trauma that is underlying Touko's behavior, and she doesn't want to push her away. Not because she wants Touko to remain perfect. Of course, there's also the fear that Touko will reject her if Sayaka ever tried to talk her into maybe facing up to those fears or to get closer to her, which, as we saw with Yuu, is indeed what Touko does to anyone who tries to get her to deal with her past. So it's actually really sad that Touko doesn't see or realize that Sayaka would likely accept and love her vulnerable, uncertain side too. I honestly think Touko's misconception of Sayaka is a classic case of projection. She just assumes that everyone wants her to stay perfect because that's what she demands of herself. At one point, I did wonder if Touko takes advantage of Sayaka's care for her and kind of leads her on. Like when she grabbed Sayaka's hand, I'm assuming knowing how she feels about her. I do know it's normal for friends to walk down the street holding hands, but context does change things. So I did phone a friend for this one, and I talked to Shaif about it, who suggested that maybe Touko keeps Sayaka close because Sayaka validates her success at playing the perfect role of her sister, and she also helps Touko continue being that. It kind of mirrors like Yuu's how far can I push her sort of dynamic, except here it's Touko testing out for how long can she maintain her perfect act in the eyes of someone who she thinks only wants to be close to her because she is perfect, even though in truth Sayaka is not about that. It's just so messy and so messed up. Sayaka probably knows that she deserves better, and in fact she does deserve better, but sometimes you love who you love even when it's really unfair. So with all that messiness, I again am very glad that Sayaka got to talk about her feelings with Mia at the coffee shop. It's scary being a baby gay and just being unsure of who you can trust, and for a high schooler navigating same-sex attraction. seeing healthy adult LGBTQ plus relationships can literally be life-saving because it's about knowing that you have a hope for a loving relationship in the future. It's also worth noting how perceptive Sayaka was to pick up on Miya and Hakozaki sensei's relationship in the first place. It makes sense because when you're questioning your own sexuality, you do develop a bit of a gaydar for spotting signs that others might miss. What I loved about Miya and Hakozaki's relationship was just how normal it is. I loved that we got to see them inside their own home and how they have like different comfort levels about being public. You know, Miya is more open and Hakozaki prefers privacy for, you know, professional reasons, and that's fine. I love how they can just like give each other shit and then be like, so are you coming to bed yet? They kind of just exist as a balanced, normal couple, secure in their feelings for each other. So it was just a very welcome contrast to the torrent of confused and potentially hurt feelings that are bubbling amongst our main characters. Miya also gave some really good advice to Sayaka that keeping feelings locked away forever is not healthy. But also, you know, understandably, it is hard to know the right time to confess your feelings. Sometimes the kind thing to do is just to wait for the right moment rather than forcing a confession that might hurt everyone involved. But then again, there's always the risk that the right moment never comes along. So yeah, Sayaka's in a bit of a tough spot. Also, quick note, I just thought it was hilarious how Miya immediately picked up on the fact that Touko is a handful. Because, you know, growing gays will know. I also really enjoyed seeing the relationship between Sayaka and Yuu get fleshed out because they're positioned as sort of these like rivals for Touko's attention that are really out of sync with each other, but they gradually recognize their shared understanding of Touko's complexity and her issues and how that impacts them. I love that you asked Sayaka out for food. I'm not sure if the line about whether this was Sayaka's first time at a fast food restaurant was a reference to K-On, where Mugi, who voices Touko, was a rich girl who'd never been to a fast food restaurant. It does seem a bit too on the nose to just be a coincidence. I appreciate how the show subverts the typical romance rivals trope. You know, instead of becoming these bitter enemies who are out to sabotage each other's chances at love, Sayaka and Yuu develop genuine respect and at least, you know, the beginnings of a friendship through their mutual care and concern for Touko. It actually impressed Sayaka that Yuu confronted the awkwardness between them head on, unlike a certain other unnamed person who is too damaged to face problems directly and kind of hides behind a mask instead. Both girls know about Touko's mask, but they have different responses to it. So Sayaka, she lets it kind of be, or I don't know, enables it, you could say, although it is really not her responsibility to fix Touko because she believes that it protects Touko from, I guess, having a complete meltdown. Touko is just too scared to face her trauma and she hasn't found the right professional help yet to even be in a mental state to do that. Whereas Yuu does try to challenge that mask because she wants to explore what a real relationship with the real Touko might look like. Although she is also kind of accommodating it by agreeing to a relationship with Touko where she promises to not fall in love with her. At the same time though, Yuu genuinely wants Touko to be free of that constant pressure of being someone else that she's just not. In this scene, Sayaka and Yuu's questions revealed their different priorities and I guess their mixed motivations as well. Sayaka wants to tell Touko how she feels and that she accepts Touko for who she really is because she wants to give love, but it's also about having her own love reciprocated. Yuu, on the other hand, wonders how she'll be able to explore relationships if Touko just won't let her. And it's more about her experiencing love and continuing to explore her own capacity for love. I'm not going to say who's better or worse or who's more selfish or not, because I don't think that's even the point. But I did think that it highlighted how even genuine care for someone can have self-interested elements mixed in with it. And that's just human. Besides, Touko is in no state to be in any relationship with anyone, so it's all kind of a moot point anyway. I thought it was brilliant the way that they contrasted the two different times that Touko held hands with each of them. So on top of everything that we've already talked about, it also reminded us of how Touko views those two relationships. She took Yuu's hand because she assumes that Yuu won't truly love her back. You know, it lets her experience intimacy in a safe way that doesn't really rock the boat. Whereas she took Sayaka's hand because she wants to keep Sayaka close for all that validation and all that support. It's the same gesture, but with completely different motives. So overall, I think this whole interaction between Yuu and Sayaka from start to finish was just excellent. Like in a very, very short time, we understood a lot more about how Sayaka and Yuu relate to and also differ from each other, but also how they both fit into Touko's like very fragile emotional world. And that brings us to the central relationship, Touko and Yuu, which is both very sweet and also deeply problematic. Because it was cute when Yuu practiced with Touko, like to not freak out every time that she said her name, and you know, when they fought over who should hold the umbrella. But also, as I mentioned, Yuu enables Touko's avoidance issues by agreeing to this sort of relationship with no real feelings involved, while Touko takes advantage of Yuu's kindness to experience emotional intimacy on her own controlled terms. Yuu just has to be constantly vigilant at all times to not seem to be too interested or too in love or too real about things, because that would shatter Touko's very carefully maintained illusion of safety. But by episode 9, there were clear signs that Yuu is genuinely falling in love with Touko. That moment during the race where everything blanked out and everything slowed down and faded except for Touko, where this very romantic music is playing in Yuu's head, that was Yuu's emotional awakening to how much she actually loves this girl. So the question then becomes, how long can Yuu keep up this charade of being incapable of romantic love when her feelings are starting to grow beyond her own control? Even the smallest slip, like when Yuu told Touko that her walking her home made her really happy, that triggered this immediate iron curtain to fall over Touko. You could see like the fear in her face. Like, what if Yuu's really falling for me? What if she'll start expecting me to be my true, authentic self, vulnerable self at all times, including in front of other people? And it was actually pretty scary the way that Touko just shut down like that. And again, it showed how much she really, really needs a therapist. Okay, let's return to the shed scene. I don't know how you guys felt about it, because I think you could come away with all sorts of different interpretations and feelings. But for me, it crystallized everything that is both wrong and right about their relationship. This dynamic where Touko has to be 100% in the driver's seat, like even when it's framed as Yuu taking the initiative, reveals how controlled their relationship really is. Yes, Touko is demanding that Yuu make the first move to kiss her, but it's still happening entirely on Touko's own terms. Like, this is what you're going to do to me. And I don't think that ultimately makes for a very healthy relationship, because it's all carefully staged. You know, it's that thing that Kuyomi brilliantly clocked, just how artificial Touko's personality is, and thus how artificial her relationships are. And that's been the problem this whole time. You know, Touko cannot be in a real relationship with anyone because she hasn't figured out how to not hate herself. At the same time, though, she desperately craves some sort of safe space to be her own authentic self, and she feels like she can only do that with Yuu because Touko thinks that she can count on Yuu not to expect any actual vulnerability or commitment. Look, we sort of see some good come out of Touko having Yuu around, because she has started opening up about her past, and who knows, like maybe as more time passes, that'll slowly progress into being able to face her childhood trauma and actually seek help for it. But until that happens, Touko and Yuu's relationship remains, to me, slightly toxic. And we all knew that kind of from the start, but now we're actually starting to see it weigh on Yuu. Instead of the fake stars projected by that star projector, I think Yuu is starting to want the real thing. Put in the language of the underwater metaphor, Touko has only wanted you to stay like trapped or submerged underwater, unable to understand or reciprocate romantic love. But Yuu has slowly found a way to the surface, and that is exactly what Touko cannot handle. Which is why Yuu lied about the kiss feeling wrong and about not liking Touko, knowing that it would put Touko more at ease, and it really just let them sink back into their whole performance where Touko is the only one that's really invested in this relationship and Yuu is kind of meh and just going along for the ride. It was this very like sad moment of self-denial for Yuu that protected the status quo while slowly destroying Yuu on the inside, because she's having to sacrifice her own desire for real intimacy with Touko and just the ability to express to her that she's starting to fall in love with her. You know, the irony is that their relationship was built initially on the idea of being special. That is, like being incapable of romantic love. Yuu initially thought that Touko was special like her, but then Touko revealed that she wasn't. Meanwhile, Touko was drawn to Yuu precisely because she seemed special in that way. But now we're seeing that neither of them are really special. You know, they both want to love and be loved, and they're kind of just scared and, in Touko's case, traumatized, and sort of using each other to avoid confronting their own capacity for genuine connection. So something has to give, and soon, and when it does, there really is no going back to that comfortable lie that they've built together. One important realization that took place also was the discovery that Yuu isn't actually like Maki, despite how much she clings to that similarity. Maki is totally fine staying out of the romance pool. You know, he doesn't get lonely and he's not really looking for a missing part of himself. He appears to be fully aromantic and or asexual and is just very comfortable with his lack of romantic feelings. Yuu, on the other hand, despite what she says, is showing all of these signs that she's very much into Touko romantically and that she enjoys exploring her sexuality with her. She wants to understand what romantic love feels like and is, and she really craves that close connection with someone else, which are all desires that Maki just doesn't have. I think the sad thing with Yuu is that she thought she was broken just because she didn't experience love in the same way that 90% of other people do, when really she's just figuring out how to love in her own way, as we all do. Her falling for Touko isn't betraying her identity as someone who can never fall in love. Instead, it's just this very slow, normal, healthy uncovering of who she really was all along. I think she just needed to come across the right person at the right time. Bloom Into You, episode 10. Let's go in 3, 2, 1, play. You mean like childhood trauma? Like reliving it? I think Sayaka should be a therapist, not Touko's therapist. But she's got the gift of someone who can understand some pretty complex stuff. I'm so sad for Sayaka. I mean, I'm not sad because I think that she has all the things that she needs to become a healthy, you know, functioning, happy adult who will be in a relationship with someone who appreciates her. It's just unlucky that she had to fall for the most emotionally unavailable person ever at this stage in her life. Someone made a really good point in the comments. I think it was Josh who was like, Sayaka's storyline allows the story to tackle the difficulties and the struggles of figuring out your sexuality at this time in your life while also not overloading it with this story being only about, queerness. It allows us to explore just general complexities of a relationship that is the one between you and Touko without having all that heavy baggage take it over. That was a really good point. She has not slept in weeks, Koyomi. Oh man, I think it was also Growl Mouse who was like, Koyomi's script might just be a ticking time bomb because it's going to make Toko's deal public to everyone. We might have some kind of Touko breakdown in the works. I mean, Touko could technically veto it if she doesn't like the script. Does she think maybe you spilled some beans on her? When it's actually Kiyomi who's amazing at reading people or just thinking up characters that are real. Oh, that's right, the shed kiss. Hmm. Who is she? Ooh, yeah, that hits close to home for Toko. Because Toko also, yeah, she doesn't really have a strong idea of who she is, other than what people put on her when she was young and going through the death of her sister. I hope you doesn't hate me. Oh. A wish for Toko. I mean, you the lover, Sayaka the friend, and one of the guys as a family member, I guess. Ah, okay. Oh god. uh, Maki's like, my god, what a normie. Sayaka's like, thank you, Koyomi, for making my life so much harder. Oh my god, Maki doing the thing again. He's done that a couple of times so far. It's a true like third party observer. The most oblivious one, just adding fuel to the fire. Oh, the camping episode. I mean, they don't really have a choice. Mm. Touko just digging. Like finding reassurance that you really isn't interested in her, but you, God, ah, pain for you. Mm. Oh man, whenever they go to that like light scene, that's love, right? That's the stirrings of love inside you. I mean, just the encapsulation of their relationship. It's like Taka does whatever she wants, and then you just goes along with it. Unfair. I mean, talked about this, right? Taka is being unfair to both Sayaka and you in different ways. Who was that? I mean, not really, Touko. Not when you want to like take the initiative with you. She wishes Touko would get some therapy so that she can actually start to think about being in a proper relationship. Man, it must be a dream to just have a bookshop right downstairs. But then when you actually do have one, it probably isn't. Underwater. It's like walking on eggshells. She shouldn't be, but she has to. This is a difficult part of the relationship. When you do start caring, you like start looking at your phone, you're like calculating, should I send them a message? Is it too early to send one? It's tough. How do people carry on conversations while they're running? She wants tea. Oh, Unico. Not just sleeping. Man, even down to like, what are you wearing in front of this person? Mia just like getting all the goss. She's like, love triangle. She's like, I knew it. I knew this girl was a handful. That's how you know. That's how you know you really care about something. or someone when it starts annoying you? Aw, it's a good friend. Aw, there's like a little mini confession there. Oh man, family life with Touko. That's a first. Maybe her dad meant well, it's just they haven't really had a solid relationship for a long time, and it just yeah, it's just prickly. She's not gonna pick up. Oh. What did you have for breakfast? What did you have for lunch? Oh, she's very good at acting. I mean, maybe it started out like that. She's not indifferent because she's just like putting in so much mental load to just appear as though she's like, whatever, I don't care if you called me. But now that you're here, may as well talk. Like, oh man. I think that kind of walking on eggshells feeling, it's exciting for like that time in your life, but is it sustainable? No, I don't think so. Not really. At some point, something or someone breaks, and maybe it's always that line, right? They're always talking about the line that you can't cross. Eventually, that line gets crossed because, well, humanly, it's just such a strain to keep that sort of quote unquote act going. So I actually don't know now whether Toka will break because of something that you says or does, or whether it'll just all come out exploding at the school play. Yeah. I thought it was interesting to show Natsuki, like, the friend from her middle school, and just the night and day difference between how she treats you compared to how Touko treats you. Oh my god, this is the day of the accident. Ugh. Of course, like the word become is sort of like alludes to the title as well. Bloom into you. Although she's not really meant to be blooming into her sister because she's her own person, but she doesn't know that yet. Oh. I'll just finish my previous thought about the contrast between Natsuki and how she was kind of like, well, internally, not that she told you, but she was like, yeah, I really wish that she would have come with me to high school because I did kind of like you a lot, but chose to just let you do her own thing and kind of let her go. Whereas with Touko, she's really clinging onto you as this sort of, I'd say, kind of like a lifeboat, just doing everything that she wants to do with you without actually going all the way or, giving way in a way that a real relationship would be, obviously, because she is trying to become her sister. So, yeah. I thought it was just interesting that little contrast in what a healthy relationship looks like versus what a not so healthy one looks like. I think we also touched on something interesting that comes up a lot in shows like this, where it's like we really are, if you think about it, the accumulation of all of our memories, who we think we are and who other people think we are. It all depends on the memories that people have of us and the memories that we have of ourselves. So the fact that Touko grew up basing her entire identity on being someone else and on fulfilling the expectations and the memories people had of Mio, her sister. That explains why she is so at sea in terms of who she is as a person and why she looks down on herself so much. And I love that Sayaka was the one who was kind of prompting Touko to kind of think about why it is that she seems to be remembering not the past, but memories of the past, which is very different to, remembering the past that you yourself lived through. It's kind of like she's living life through the prism of her sister. And that's not, again, very unhealthy and something that she needs to work through in a proper therapy session. But yeah, there's a lot of like really fascinating stuff about what it means when we realize that we are just the product of the memories that we have. Someone with amnesia, for example, which ironically is what Koyomi wrote into the script. Essentially, you're someone who is a blank slate, and that's actually really sad. People's memories of you dictate who you become, even though that may not be who you really are. Okay, Bloom Into You, episode 11. Here we go. The stress is mounting because we're getting really close to the breaking point now. In 3, 2, 1, play. Stay overnight with a bunch of random people? No, no, no. Oh, I wonder if Mia's there too. They need someone to cater for their food. You again, just pretending like it's not a big deal. I wonder if Kiyomi is going to be the director from Hell, you know, because it's her baby, it's her work. She's going to be yelling at them all, no, this is what this character is really feeling. You're not giving enough. Maybe Kiyomi is going to break Touko. Oh, yeah, um I forget who it was, but they were saying that in the episode where Sayaka is at the coffee shop talking to Mia and Mia's like wiping the counter, she's actually wiping Sayaka's tears off the counter. And then I just saw like that teardrop that goes into the cup of tea or coffee. Ah, I wish we had like a whole spin-off of like Sayaka's journey and how she grows up to be like this, just how she figures life out, figures relationships out, figures out herself, you know. And I think that's what the light novel is, I guess. So maybe I'll have to check that out later. Oh no. Oh, it's weird because it's kind of like Taka really wanted her sister back, and she knew that everyone around her wanted her sister back, and so she chose to become her sister for the sake of everyone else. Because it's too happy. It's too right. Exactly. Koyomi's like, I need to add more pain to the ending. Like how Sayaka and Touko are standing in exactly the same pose. Okay, what are the sleeping arrangements? That's the big question. Who sleeps in the middle? Oh, Sayaka. Oh, poor baby. That's really fair. It's a fair dilemma. And these two are just completely oblivious. Oh god. Touko? That like glance over at Sayaka. Touko knows. Everyone's just putting on a face. Yu's probably the best at it. Yu has the best poker face. Stare. The music. The guy's just missing out on all the drama. Maki is like, you idiot. Okay, so they survived the communal bath. And Toko's in the middle. Sayaka looks good with glasses. Sayaka's face. So sus. Why can't they just be in like a polyamorous relationship? I think that would be a really well balanced relationship. Yep, no one's getting any sleep tonight. She's looking the other way. Oh man, I feel so much for Sayaka. I mean, even if Sayaka wasn't there, I think she'd be like, that may be crossing the line. That was great. That was a great scene. Just laying out all of the personal dilemmas. Oh, I see. A pro. Looks serious. Oh man. Someone from her past that knew her before she became a sister. It's sad to think that playing the role of Toko's character's lover is the closest that Sayaka is ever going to get with Toko. Hmm. Good point. He knows. Wait, is that what Meal was like? No. Oh my god, it's no tact at all. What if he knows a side of Mio that Toko never knew? Because, you know, she thinks her sister's this perfect person, but as her classmate, this guy is like, well, actually, she had her ups and downs too. And this is going to rock Toko's world. Because this is not who she thought she was this whole time. Oh. Oh shit. Oh no. The picture of her sister is actually a lot more complicated than me than Toko thought, which makes sense because she was actually a real human being, not just this fantasy. Ooh, that was big. And also in front of like her parents too. I mean, he means it as a compliment, but I think she would take it as like a really hard hit. Damn. There's a lot to unpack there. I love those two together. Man, she's scared that you won't be able to handle her as she really is. Mm. Yeah, don't burn up the whole forest. Mm. Metaphor. Yes, Sayaka, keep digging. There's the fear. Good job, Sayaka. It's kind of like risking it, you know? But she's like, someone has to. Someone has to make this girl talk. Okay, that's progress. That was good. That was good. I don't know if you could have been the one to do that. I mean, she could have, I guess. But at this point, she's just being so careful around Touko that I don't know if you knows how far she can push for fear of Touko completely turning away from her. So maybe it was just Sayaka who could have done that. But yeah, the layer of irony that it added when Ichigaya revealed the kind of person that Mio really was behind closed doors was incredible. So, the sister that Touko has been trying to imitate and replicate over all of these years, it was really the image of her sister in her head as a young kid, you know, and of course she would have idolized the sister at that age and not really seen all of the flaws that Mia's friends and the people in the council with her would have seen. But some stuff, like the fact that she got them to do her homework for her and kind of took all the credit for all the work that they did, that adds a lot of flaws to Mio's character that never factored into Toko's like thinking. Yeah, so I wonder if this is going to start the seed of something positive. She's going to start reflecting, hopefully, that there is no one, in fact, who is perfect, and that therefore she can give herself a bit of leeway to not be the perfect person that she has been striving to be for all this time. And maybe it'll be like, well, if my sister wasn't perfect, she had all these things about her that really aren't on the up and up, then maybe I can also start thinking about who I want to be without the pressure of living up to that impossible image. It's also ironic because the memory of who Mia was, um, well, Toko put her own ideas of what Mia was out there. Clearly, her parents and her relatives had this image of who Mia was, but Mia herself, she was also living up to these expectations that weren't reflective of who she really was as a whole imperfect, complex person. And so maybe, just maybe, this will give Toko permission to also be her own complex, flawed, imperfect person. Okay, guys, we're really close to the end now. So we're going to go on to episode 12 in 3, 2, 1, play. Probably didn't sleep all night. Do you think maybe Yu's feeling a little bit jealous of Sayaka now? Jealous that maybe Sayaka was the first one to really risk risk it and just get Touko to talk. I think ultimately the image that Touko had of Mia had to be shattered and broken down in some way. It's definitely going to be painful to, because think of all the effort and the pain and the suffering that she's put herself through to be the spitting image of her sister, not just to herself, but to everyone else around her, so that everyone would be happy. And it turns out that that wasn't even the person that her sister was. So it's like, why did I put myself through all this, when that wasn't even the true picture of who she was? But I think that's good because you have to be broken down first in order for something better to come along and be built up. Be soft but project. Like to her, that's a bad thing, but it's actually a good thing. No. Oh man. She's like, did I just live my whole life for everyone else and not myself? Psych. Ah, this is real. Sayaka. Shut out. I mean, it is none of her business. Like, it's not her place to tell you. Yep. Oh no. And I thought they were making such good progress as friends. Mm. Just put yourself through your own trauma so that the acting's better. I think that's about right. But it's like, it is still very messed up and complicated. I guess even when you have microphones, you are meant to project. She needs to figure out the unlock code for her own person. It is interesting that she's so fixated on the fact that she has to be one version of herself, when really we're all different with different people. I guess Touko is incapable of believing that someone doesn't expect anything from her, because that's not how she's lived for a long time. That's okay. Sayaka's like, yes, yes, I will be with you, Touko. I mean, character. Oh. The unlock was like the person she loved. That's neat. She's doing a very good job of keeping it together in front of everyone, given that huge blow, like to her sense of herself that she had. Oh, you once in. She's like, something big happened to you, and I was completely shut out from it. Oh, here we go. We've been trained to expect something pretty massive to happen with those sounds. It does feel like Touko hasn't been as affectionate lately. And Yu's like, this is weird. I feel like we're growing apart. anyone else, but I have fallen for you. She's asking, like, where is this line? And Yu's like, it's fine. There is no line. There's an imaginary line where both of them can be like, yeah, this isn't real love. Like, I haven't fallen in love with you. But really, they have obliterated that line for a while. I mean, don't speak so soon. Bait and switch. Oh, are they actually gonna sleep together? Okay. Okay, that's good. Touko didn't freak out. Because, like, you was showing a bit of affection. Like the girl in the play. Yeah. She's like, how does everyone else deal with, like, being different versions of themselves? Yeah. Why? I'm just scared that her mom's gonna walk in on them. Yeah, like because you loves her, so Touko shouldn't hate herself because you loves it. That was really sad. I think she's saying baka to herself for not being able to tell her as well. Ah, they're both idiots. She's like, change it. Yeah. I think she wants to tell Touko the truth that we're all like, all of us have parts of ourselves that make up the whole. You don't have to pick just one. You know what? Everything's complicated. Like, you may want Touko to like learn that she doesn't have to be just one version of herself for her own sake because she wants her. But also, it's unselfish too because she actually cares about Touko. You're ignoring her present. Yeah. I get that. Yeah, even though they spent 3 days like practicing that original version. Doesn't matter, it's art. Mm. Oh, just being in bed with Touko. Yay! Go you! This is so fascinating. The whole in the script, the character was like basing her choice on who she has to be based on a past version of herself. It's like she's trying to find out who she was. Whereas, really, all of us, we're not just who we once used to be. We're constantly evolving and changing and choosing for ourselves who we want to be. It kind of reminds me of the concept that I encountered when watching Your Name, which is a much more visceral version of showing how, like, a single point in time encompasses the past, the present, and the future. It's Heidegger's concept of time, in his seminal work on being and time. Things are constantly being and going to be and once was. Like, all of those three concepts of time is actually all wrapped up in one moment. So for Heidegger, the thing that you want to avoid as a human being is to be imprisoned by past versions of yourself, or of ideas of what others thought you were. Whereas what you is suggesting is the better way to move forward is to just not be so fixated on recovering something from the past, but rather just allowing yourself to be and to engage with your present self and constantly reflect on who you want to be and recognize that you have a choice to, yes, appreciate what came before you, but also realize that your present self can also embody future possibilities. None of us are static entities that don't evolve. When you say it like that, it sounds like so common sense. But for someone like Touko, who has been locking away the trauma of losing her sister for so long, not really talking about it, believing that the people around her, especially her parents, would be happier if she became the memory of her sister, then this sort of concept, this sort of permission of being in the present and realizing that you have a choice, that you don't have to lock yourself into any one version of yourself, that's revolutionary thinking. And I really, really, really hope that this play, I guess, the fact that Koyomi and Yuu are scheming to change everything and just kind of throw it all up in the air and rewrite it so that it reflects a more realistic understanding of how people work and how people are. Hopefully this is going to help. I feel like I just word vomited. But yeah, I love that they're coming to this conclusion. I'm assuming because you only have one episode left and we're not sure how Toko's going to take it. But yeah, I was totally on your side when her response to Touko was like, why do you have to pick just one? Why can't you just be who you are right now? And that brings us to the second last episode of Bloom Into You. I'm sure we'll have a bunch of stuff to talk about at the last episode. So yeah, have at it in the comments. I'll bring them up in the last discussion that we have after we watch the very last episode next time. And I, again, have really, really enjoyed exploring the concept of being and just choices about identity, and also, watching the really cute couple of Mia and Hakazaki sensei on screen, just having them be sort of like this comic relief, I guess, and knowing that in this story somewhere is a happy gay couple. I think the show has done an amazing job representing all sorts of characters and all sorts of struggles, but in particular the central one of Toko's, which is, who are we and who can we be? Her situation is on the extreme end, but I feel like it does reflect at its core a struggle that we all go through, especially when we're younger and we still don't really know who we want to be. So I'll see you guys next time for the last episode of Bloom Into You, and until then, take care.